Hey everyone, this is Book Pop, a podcast about books as pop culture from two booksellers on the front lines. I'm Molly Fish.
And I'm Jamie Anderson, and this is our Minisode where we give you 5 exciting titles with a different theme every episode. And this week's episode is 5 adaptations that people can't stop talking about. In no particular order. Number 1 on the list, Three-Body Problem by Shenjin Liu?
Yeah.
Shenjin Liu.
Sijin Liu.
So sorry.
We're gonna have to cut all this.
I'm very, very sorry for the pronunciation. This book is currently on Netflix, and I am currently reading it. I'm about halfway through. It's very deep in sci-fi. It helps if you have a physics degree, which I do not, but I'm still enjoying it.
Yeah, I've been watching the show. I haven't read the books, but I am pretty into the show at this point. It's from some of the same producers of the original Game of Thrones series. And so you can tell they have like that cinematic mentality and really beautiful
CGI.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like very well produced and high budget. So I've been enjoying it so far. The world building in any show I feel like is tougher, especially for something that's like super detailed. Mm-hmm. And you were explaining to me that like it's got a slow ramp up as they're like introducing you to all the aspects of this world, and we don't really get that in the show because they're trying to dive into the characters right away. So
yeah, I feel that that's very similar to the book too, because it doesn't really build the world right away in the beginning. It builds the society and like the dynamics of class, and like the revolution that's happening is more of the center than the actual world.
Yeah, the show, is it also like jumping between time periods? Because the show does that. So I was a little bit taken out of it for the first 2 episodes till you figure out who everyone is in the different time periods.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes in a book, I feel like that works better when it actually says like, this is the time, this is the place, here's where we are, rather than just jumping between scenes and you're like, where are we?
Yeah, I agree. Three-Body Problem.
But yeah, we're liking the show and the book so far.
Yeah.
So good.
Next one is Shogun
by James Clavell.
Oh, yeah. The author. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Shogun by James Clavell.
And this one's a honker. Look at that.
A 2-parter.
It cannot be contained in one giant paperback. It is 2 giant paperbacks
that are over 800 pages each.
And I'm also watching the show of this and really loving it. I love a high budget historical piece like that. And there was an original series made of this starring Richard Chamberlain in the 80s, I think, that it's been fun. A lot of people of like my parents' generation, when I talked to them about, there's a new Shogun show, they were like, we watched that already 40 years ago. So I think it's fun that they're updating it for a new audience with all the CGI and really great budgets that we have today to make shows. So I'm loving the show. I do not think I will ever tackle these tomes of a book, but I've heard it's good from, a reliable source.
Yeah.
AKA Stuart.
Yeah, Stuart read this. The part 1, I think he needed a break, so he didn't go into part 2. But I don't know if I have to wait for him to finish part 2 before we can watch the show.
I mean, probably not. This is so sweeping that I bet the show only covers part of part 1.
Good point.
But
I've kind of been waiting for his green light, and I feel like it's something that we'd watch together.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I want to watch it, and also I'm not going to read it.
I would say this is not as hot of a seller, just because I think it's a little more intimidating. But we have definitely, since the show started, been selling part 1 quite a bit. We'll see if anybody comes back to buy part 2.
That's a good point. Stuart actually read it on like Kindle too. So
right, and then he didn't know how long it was.
No. Mm-hmm. And I think it said like over 1,000 pages digitally.
Sure.
Which is even more than the paperback. I don't know. Number 3, in no particular order.
That's right.
Oppenheimer. This is available streaming on Peacock, but recently won a boatload of Oscars.
All the Oscars. Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, Best Director,
Cinematography.
And the book it is based on loosely is this nonfiction book, American Prometheus by Kai Bird and Martin J. Sherwin. It is also quite the large, detailed, in-depth look at this time period and these characters. It's considered a biography of Oppenheimer, but it is much more broad sweeping than that. And
I just opened it up and the words are printed so small.
it's so small. Yeah. So I think this is one, the book as well as the movie are, quite a time commitment, but the movie obviously has been really well received. And we have seen a bump in sales again since the Oscars for this book. I think it had kind of died down after last summer when the movie first came out. And then with the Oscars, it got another bump. So people are definitely still interested in reading the whole backstory behind the movie after seeing the movie.
Did you watch Oppenheimer?
Not yet.
Okay.
I will. I just got to Killers of the Flower Moon, which was another 3.5 hour commitment. And I have to parse those out.
I started watching it when we were tired, so it wasn't the best choice.
That's not the vibe.
I'll go back to it. I promise. Next is Erasure, which was adapted into American fiction by Percival Everett.
American Fiction also just won an Oscar of Best Adapted Screenplay.
And you can watch it on Prime right now.
Yep, we think it's streaming and also is probably out in theaters still, some theaters. It's really exciting because this book is over 20 years old and I am told it reads like, current day. And the fact that all of Percival Everett's backlist has been blowing up because of this book and because of the popularity of that movie is really exciting for him, previously maybe underrated author. So it's cool to see an older hidden gem get brought to the surface.
Right. Give it a little new life.
Because of its adaptation, which, is just as appropriate today. Talking about, I don't know if we should go into a little bit what it's about. It is about a Black author who is frustrated with his career and kind of as a joke writes a blaxploitation novel, which then blows up. And it's supposed to be satire, but it is taken very seriously. And then he kind of becomes this caricature of himself as an author to promote the book. And then it's like the blurred lines of what is real and what is not, and how his own life falls apart and or comes together, and how his success comes together. But then his personal life falls apart as he becomes this alter ego. So it's really satirical and applies just as well today as when it was written.
It's very appealing to me. I love satire.
You are a big satire person. And it's got a lot of vibes of Yellowface, which I know you read and loved. And this is in that same vein of like literary publishing satire. But I also really am looking forward to reading this book.
Nice. Poor Things. Alasdair Gray? Alasdair Gray?
Yeah, Alasdair. Alasdair?
Shoot.
You tell us. Alasdair Gray? Cool name.
It is a cool name. Poor Things is currently streaming on Hulu. I saw this one in the theaters with like 10 other people.
Was that worth it? Was it a good
There's
theater?
a lot of nudity, so it's weird. You're just watching people have sex with a bunch of other people.
Fascinating.
But the cinematography in this film is absolutely stunning. They do really innovative things with different lenses, and they revive different techniques, that have been used for forever in new ways. And the colors of this film is just so stunning. So I really enjoyed that.
And Emma Stone won Best Actress at the Oscars for her performance.
It's such an amazing performance. So it follows Emma Stone as the protagonist, and she basically is Frankensteinified. Yes, exactly. Brought back to life by her quote unquote father who found her after she was washed ashore. And then her new father needs to like teach her how to be a person again. So it's, kind of this coming of age, learning how to be human and learning what kind of joys and sorrows and, the pressures of society, especially that they put on women.
Yeah, in an adult female body.
In an adult female body, yeah.
But learning that for the first time, interesting.
It is. It's
and lots of sex, huh?
Lots of sex.
Interesting.
Yep. But that's such a big part of like her understanding her womanhood and also how she's treated because of that.
Good to know. I think that looks like both a great book and a great movie for sure.
Yeah.
And a much more manageable page count, I'd say, for that book.
Right. I haven't read it, but I have seen the movie. Yeah.
So those are 5 trending adaptations, but we wanted to give honorable mention. There's so many popular streaming and movie adaptations out there right now, and a lot of them sell really well. One I'm really excited about is the adaptation of A Gentleman in Moscow, starring Ewan McGregor, which is going to be a series on Paramount Plus. I think the first episode is already out or is about to come out as we are taping this, and I'm going to watch that one with my dad. We both really love this book, so I'm waiting for him to get back from a trip so we can watch together. So I'm excited for that adaptation.
Dune. This probably deserved to be on our list. We just talk about it so much.
Yeah, we were like, let's
give it a minute.
Take a break from talking about Dune all the time.
Yes. But Dune Part 2 is currently in theaters. You watched it.
Yes, I did. Loved it. Loved the first one. Read the book a long time ago. And enough said about Dune, I think.
Yeah. Capote's Women. Currently on Hulu. Netflix.
Yeah, The Feud is a Ryan Murphy adaptation about Truman Capote and this gaggle of women that he surrounded himself with and how they eventually kind of turn on him and each other. And it looks really interesting. It had a lot of famous women in it who are starring, like Callista Flockhart is the main one that I'm remembering off the top of my head.
Oh.
But it looks like a really cool period piece, which I do love a period piece. And Ryan Murphy always does interesting out there adaptations. The book itself is a biography. The subtitle is A True Story of Love, Betrayal, and a Swan Song for an Era. And again, about Truman Capote's, rise to fame and fall from grace. So that has, I think, a lot of potential as a book as well. Killers of the Flower Moon, out now. And Lily Gladstone just made history winning an Oscar for her portrayal. She was the first of Molly Burkhart. She was the first Native American woman to win an Oscar, I believe, an acting award. Certainly.
Yeah, that was I watched the Oscars and they incorporated the Osage tribe and like the music, and there was a whole drum circle, and that's amazing. Very emotional. Yeah.
It's a great book. I think it's definitely one of those where the book is better than the movie. Hot take. Yeah. Maybe not a hot take.
I haven't seen the movie yet, but I read the book.
There's just so much more going on with all of the murders than they really get to, in a dramatic portrayal where they want to really focus in on like a certain relationship between Leonardo DiCaprio's character and Lily Gladstone's character. And it just didn't, they can't do as much. Right.
They're trying to like portray so much emotion in the movie and make you invested. And the book you're getting.
It's really like a journalistic investigation of these murders where it goes one by one, and but he unfolds it like a true crime investigation. So you get to kind of go along for the ride of like, okay, this person was murdered. And then how did we find out what? So what and when?
Yeah.
It's a really great book. It's terrible and, a hard thing to learn about and tragic, but it is fascinating and important. And I think maybe more important to read than to watch because you do get a lot more of the context.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of great adaptations. We had a whole feature table of some of the most popular adaptations, which we didn't even get to, like the Heartstopper and Nimona series that are on Netflix right now. Some like more young adult stuff. There was Red, White, and Royal Blue that came out.
There's so many of them.
There's so many good ones. So we didn't get to all of them, but we wanted to talk about some of our faves.
And the book is always better.
The book is always better.
Hot take.
Maybe not for us, or maybe
No.
not for booksellers. We always are going to think the book is better.
Yes.
You can find all of these books for sale and more at lakecitybooks.com. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.